As amended.
As amended, yeah. Is this thing on?
No.
Now my regular booming voice will take hold. Supposed to laugh. Okay, we're now moving into our delegations, and a special duty tonight. Our Summerland royalty is to get their oaths of office. So would you like to come forward and we'll do that? My wife said I should stand on something. I think she's right. Women always wear high heels. What are you going to do? Okay. Wear high heels. Don't want to go there? You never know. And
It's always dangerous.
So, what I'd like you to do is just insert your name, and I'll give you parts of the oath, and then you just repeat after me, please. Okay, I,
Anna Ferrer,
yes, having been announced to be selected to the position of Summerland Princess.
So, another year, you give them
Having
a piece of
been
paper.
honored to be selected to the position of Summerland Princess.
have been honored to have been selected as to represent her people. Thank you.
Just change the name to protect innocence.
I, Anna Ferrer, have been honored to be selected to the position of Summerland Princess, hereby promise to act as an ambassador for the citizens of Summerland and conduct myself to the best of my ability as a respectful, trustworthy, and positive leader for the community. I promise to be committed to the role and duties of a Summerland Princess and be an outstanding representative for our community.
Sworn in front of me, in the presence of Mayor Peter Waterman and Council, May 23rd, 2017, in Summerland, British Columbia. So we'll sign that in a couple of minutes. Just that. Would you like to have that as well, or do you want that? I gotta make sure I don't read the wrong name.
I, Trista Algar, having been honored to be selected to the position of Summerland Princess, hereby promise to act as an ambassador for the citizens of Summerland and conduct myself to the best of my ability as a respectful, trustworthy, and positive leader for the community. I promise to be committed to the role and duties of a Summerland Princess and be an outstanding representative for our community. Sworn before me in the presence of Mayor Peter Waterman and Council on May 23rd, 2017 in Summerland, British Columbia.
Chloe.
I, Chloe Knowles, having been honored to be selected as the position of Miss Summerland, hereby promise to act as an ambassador for the citizens of Summerland and conduct myself to the best of my abilities as a respectful, trustworthy, and positive leader for the community. I promise to be committed to the role and duties of Miss Summerland and be an outstanding representative for our community. Sworn before me in the presence of Mayor Peter Waterman and Council on May 23rd, 2017 in Summerland, BC.
Okay, we'll go ahead and sign. Each one of you comes forward. Chloe, you might as well sign first since you're first in line. I'll sign. here's your Summerland royalty. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, and good luck for this next year.
We're very proud of you.
Welcome. Okay, moving forward, we're now on item 6. It's an opportunity for the public to comment on any highlighted item in the agenda, please. If you'd like to come forward and give your name, please, and address.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Donna Wall, American New Summerland. I would like to present tonight a further 160 signatures opposing the proposed development for Banks Crescent. In total, we now have 2,301 signatures as of May 23rd today. A significant number considering the limited capability and time we have had since we started in December of 2016. We are dependent on those residents we inform, see at our occasional tables set up at Nestor's or OGA, and in some of the downtown businesses. Our petition is still open and ongoing, and the numbers are growing. It's important to know that the people that who oppose this development come from all over Summerland, and we all strongly believe that this will have a negative impact on the character, the future of Summerland, and would set a precedent for an anything goes attitude, ignoring risk, the need for healthy aging, and as mentioned, a green, sustainable environment. I would also like to point out tonight that this is nearly 25% of the number of eligible voters in Summerland.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else like to speak to an issue on the agenda, please? Okay, seeing no one else coming forward, we'll move on to my report, which is brief. As we speak, staff are very busy managing localized flooding in Summerland, particularly Aeneas Creek in Garnet Valley and the lakeshore areas. I'd like to thank all of our staff for their planning efforts, work on the ground, and of course the communication efforts to deal with residents' concerns. In addition, I'd like to thank the volunteers who are assisting in filling sandbags and helping homeowners. And other than our staff, our fire department's doing a stellar job in the same line of working with sandbags. And I'd also like to thank the Ministry of Forests fire crew for, there's a dozen of them today, helping out down in Trout Creek, filling sandbags. And they've all been working tirelessly to get a tremendous number of sandbags available for people. There's also been other aspects of the flooding and so on that I think our CAO will probably deal with. Also, there's a safety issue that I'd like to mention. At 7:50 this morning, I was crossing the Oval About crosswalk on Prairie Valley Road. I hesitated in the center safety zone as a vehicle approached. It did not slow down. It did not stop, and later turned into the Giants Head School parking lot. After the vehicle passed, I stood there for a few seconds in the lane looking after the car. I was quite sure I detected the universal finger salute. I was not impressed by this young woman's actions. There are far too many speeders in this area and far too many ignore pedestrians. If I'd had more time, I would have had more to say to that individual this morning. CAO?
Council, I just wanted to bring you up to date on our activities today regarding the flood event. For the past week and a half, we've been reporting that Environment Canada is predicting a maximum of 343 meters. We've staked most of the properties on the waterfront with high water, 343. That was plus a 0.6 contingency for wave action, which, should the storm come as predicted tonight, will come pretty close to hitting. However, this afternoon, they've increased the prediction to 343.05, which is a 5 centimeter increase from initial prediction. So we'll be watching that very closely because, as you know, it's the vertical rise, not the rise ahead on the property. So there are a few properties that extra 5 centimeters will make a difference. So the other piece of information to know is that it is expected that the lake will stay high for most of the summer. Mid to late summer is what they're expecting once it does reach its levels. Today, as Mayor Waterman said, we were very fortunate. We had the sandbagging machine here on loan from the province. We will have it until 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's capable of filling 1,500 bags per hour. And we also have 10 individuals from the Ministry of Forest, firefighters, that are assisting us and our crews. And they were there all day. They just shut off down just before we went there. So today we also got the Tiger Dam installed or partially installed. There's more to come to it at Powell Beach. It's a large bladder dam that's set up at because it's very flat. So if the water does rise at Powell Beach, it will go in a long way. So that was necessary. We had to close Rotary Beach this afternoon. Unfortunately, we were hoping to be able to keep Rotary Beach open, but with the wind event happening, the wharves are breaking up as we speak, and we've been able to secure some of them back, but just with ropes and things, and there was actually people swimming in the water while the wharfs, those are large wharfs, and they had broken off when the people were in the water. It would have been not a good scene. So we're going to monitor that. That one's not just being closed because it's high water. If possible, once the storm event's over, the wind event, we would reopen it and just close the dock, or the wharf, which is now under water. Powell Beach will be closed with the bladder dam in place. As I say, we had a number of volunteers today. We were very fortunate that Ken from the Builders Mart also brought his crane truck in all day, was delivering pallets of sand to those properties where their actual homes were still being threatened with the high water. So that's about the news for today. I hope to do another update on the website and Facebook as soon as we have it tomorrow morning.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything brought forward under 9.1
No.
from this morning? No. Okay, thank you. Correspondence 10.1. Anybody from council like to bring anything forward from the correspondence, please? Seeing none? You okay?
Could I bring one forward?
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry, Council, I should have spoken in my CAO report. You'll note in the correspondence that there is correspondence from the Office of the Ombudsman regarding our third. We had 3 complaints last year, 2 of which we had received responses on, suggesting that we had followed a fair practice and that there was no findings. This one was the one regarding the street addressing at Lighthouse Landing, and it also found that we had a fair process and that there was no findings, and they closed the file. So we were very happy about that.
Good. Thank you. So could I have a motion to receive the correspondence for information, please? Councillor Holmes, thank you. Councillor Barkwell, all in favor? Thank you. Carried. None opposed. Okay, 10.2. The committee minutes to be received. Somebody like to bring that forward, please? Councillor Holmes? Councillor Peak? All in favor? Yeah, actually, you can bring it forward as written, I suppose. Yes. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. None opposed. Okay. Development Services Reports. Mr. Strachan, 11.1.
Thank you, Mayor. As noted, we have a development variance permit for 10205 Giants Head Road. The application is related to the construction of an accessory building on the property. They're looking at putting in a new garage with a living space above, which would be a rec room. The building height, as well as the number of stories, is proposed for variance. The zoning bylaw only permits single-story and restricts maximum building height to 4.5 meters. The applicant is seeking to construct a two-story building at 7.245 meters. You'll note in our report that we did receive one letter from a neighbor with concerns and objections to the subject application, and was included as part of the preparation of the report, as well as 2 additional letters from other adjacent neighbors, which were added after the report was prepared. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Is the proponent in the room? Would you like to come forward and speak to this? You may do so, sir. Your name, please, and address.
My name is Dave Pollock. I'm the person that was applying for the variance.
Yes.
I just want to read a little bit of I read the notes on my wife's computer, and I just want to verify some of the statements that were made in regards to this. The intent of the two-story shop is not to change the ambience of the neighborhood. It's not to change the serenity, excuse me, and it's not to block the views. It's not to put in a carriage house. There will be no plumbing, no upstairs, or plumbing, 220 power puts for appliances. It's not so we can peek into our neighbors' properties or to affect property values. If any values should increase, it should increase it. Also, is to replace the shop we currently have, so I can continue to enjoy my hobby and collection of vintage cars and classic car memorabilia. When our grandkids come up to visit, they can still go into my shop, which we call Grandpa's Shop. It's an extra space for things that we reside in the 6-bay shop that we currently have. However, we have downsized a lot. Things like classic car posters, die-cast collection, antiques, i.e. I've got spinning wheels and sewing machines, memorial pictures and keepsakes from my friends that have passed away, and naturally put a TV and a couch. It's also a place where friends can come and hang out and watch a game or just come over for a visit. It's also a place where we can go when they may need their own space, i.e., you know what I mean? Maybe I gotta get away out of the house for a minute. This is not going to be a noisy party shop. Keep in mind, we're in our 60s. I'll be 68 next week. We are usually in bed by 9:30 or 10 p.m. The last thing we want to do and move in and have the neighbors already pissed off with us. We are community-minded and bring with us a reputation of being good neighbors who generally respect and help out our neighbors. Make no mistake, we wish to make our home in Summerland a place where we can settle in for a long time and hopefully have the neighbors become a part of our life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak to this, please?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Noel Malloy. I live on Lot 5, immediately to the east of the lot that is requesting the variance. Before I start, I can't help thinking that the previous gentleman has been granted access to our letters, but that may or may not be the case. When my wife Gail and I first came to view this property, the thing that most attracted us to it was the privacy afforded by the 12-foot cedar hedge. If this building goes ahead, it will rise 28 feet above the ground. That's 2 1/3 times the height of the current allowance. The windows in it will give a clear view of the entire eastern portion of our property the entire northern portion of our property and a good deal of the southern portion. There will be a clear view of our veranda. On the ground floor level, there'll be a clear view into the laundry room and the living room, and on the upper floor, there will be a clear view into the sewing room and the television room. This is not what we bargained for when we bought the property some 2 years ago. If that property had been in place when we first came to look at the place, we would have turned away and gone somewhere else. I cannot help think that when eventually the time comes that we have to sell because we can no longer take care of the place, that will be the attitude to many potential buyers. They will turn away and go somewhere else, thereby, without any doubt, affecting our real estate property and the value of our real estate. And finally, I can't help making the observation that to ask to go to 28 feet from 12 and a half is not so much variance territory as complete demolition territory. But that's just an observation. Thank you for listening to me.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else wish to speak?
Yes, good evening. I'm Mary Lou Dunn. I live at 10211 Giants Head Road. And first of all, I'd like to welcome my new neighbors. There have been introduced me to by Murd and his wife over the phone and chitter-chattered. But in response to the letter and the variance issue, I'm not really in favor of this because it's a huge building. It's 28, like Noel said, it's 28 feet by 28 by 40, two-story building. And it's built right next door to my property. It's huge. First, I feel that it will put my land value down, and I put in $5,000 worth of cedars when I moved in there 8 years ago, and to, continue the privacy that I do have. And I disagree with this type of building. It's just not a garage type building. It's huge. From what I hear in talk, it's a man cave with plumbing, so once they have it in order, I'm not sure whether it becomes a carriage house or the meaning of an accessory building. I'm not sure what that all means. My family has owned that 14 acres over the years. It has been subdivided off into large country lots for country living. And people there have enjoyed the privacy and the fun of the large lots and low buildings. And I moved back there for the privacy, feeling that and this type of structure takes away from my type of country living. In summary, I would just like to suggest maybe to Doug and, or Dave, sorry, and his wife, maybe you might want to redesign your building to go down below the cedars on my place. They need the sunlight, my garden needs the sunlight, and to have this huge building stuck there and overlooking my area, I'm not in favor of it. And it's no way to start a neighborhood relationship. I like to get on with my neighbors. I've had issues with other neighbors, but I don't wish to have any with you. I hope that you move in with your speech tonight, that you would be amiable to our neighborhood and consider our thoughts and views on the property. And when I decide to sell my land, I would like to know that there are no other big buildings overtowering the land and garden. Thank you, Councillor, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wish to speak? Okay, thank you. Oh,
Thank you, Council, for the letter from me. I don't know. It should be here somewhere.
Lloyd?
what was the name, sir?
Bailey?
Lloyd
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
We received the letter, sir. Thank you. Okay, council, have you questions of our planner, please, regarding this issue? Councillor Holmes and Councillor Carlson.
I was just wondering, just looking at the plans, the drawings there, it looked fairly close to the property line. Does it meet the required setback?
It meets the required setback for an accessory building in that zoning district. At the side yard setback for it is 1.5 meters.
Okay, Councillor Carlson.
I'm wondering what the maximum height for a carriage house is in Summerland. I looked at the bylaw and I didn't see that.
It's not a specific height as it is required to have a variance for a two-story accessory building. So there hasn't been a set policy height for a carriage home. So a second story being added has a height variance as well as the story variance added to it. So hasn't been a set policy. If council adopted carriage homes to be an allowable use in the zoning bylaw, we would then insert specific regulations for each zoning district that had those height restrictions that were specific to that neighborhood.
Okay.
And they would likely be more variable from a neighborhood like this where you have larger properties versus downtown, as well as areas which are older where the homes are quite often smaller versus newer neighborhoods where the houses have quite a bit more mass.
Okay, so if someone wanted to build anything, any building above 4.5 meters, a house or an accessory in this neighborhood, it would require variance. Is that?
No, the main house can be constructed to a higher height. The main house regulation in this zoning district would allow for 9.5 meters and two
Oh, okay.
stories. But that's for the main home, not for an accessory building.
Thank you.
I have a quick question of our planner. It appeared clear to me that the proponent stated it was not to be a carriage house. Was you led to be thinking anything different?
No, Your Worship, the
It's
drawings
accessory.
include plumbing for the main floor for a bathroom in the shop, but
I see.
nothing for the second story, and no interior walls. It's just one great room
I
or
see.
recreation room.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Traynor.
Would you be able to explain what the difference is exactly between an accessory garage and a carriage house?
Carriage house is a term that's used for a secondary suite that is above a garage space. The original terminology comes from when you had a carriage driver and he would stay above the stables to take care of the horses. So that's where the name came from. It is an accessory building with living or a secondary suite space above. It's a fully contained residential unit following the provisions of a secondary suite.
So would that mean that it includes plumbing and a kitchen? Or is that the definition then that separates the two?
Yes, it would include a kitchen, laundry facilities, 220 wiring, so you can have full stove as well as dryer, as well as plumbing for a washroom kitchen. So a fully self-contained residential unit.
Thanks.
Councillor Peak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. My question was partly, as Councillor Traynor spoke, the difference between. I'm wondering if this was allowed to be a two-story accessory building that has one great room, only plumbing downstairs, how do we police that there's no opportunity that it's changed after it's built to be something different than it is at this point? And that could be after a different owner comes along or whatever. I'm just wondering how we would police this kind of.
To police it would be difficult. We would do it on a complaint basis. It would be a modification to an existing building. We wouldn't allow the plumbing and so forth, the electrical, to be designed for anything more than what's been proposed. So there would be additional works that they would have to do, so people would become aware of additional works that have taken place in order to upgrade the plumbing as well as upgrade the electrical in order to do that. So we wouldn't allow them to run plumbing all over the unit and just leave it in the walls kind of scenario. Or same with the electrical. Run 220 to the second story but not have anything installed. We wouldn't allow that during the building permit process. But anyone can do that in the future. I mean, that's not what we support, and if it's identified, it would be dealt with through our bylaws enforcement.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Okay. Would someone like to bring the motion forward, please? And the resolution forward? Councillor Peak?
That the development variance permit application for Lot 3, Plan 4326, District Lot 675 and 3394 ODYD at 10205 Giants Head Road to vary the zoning bylaw 2000-450, Section 9.1.6 BV, to increase the maximum accessory building height from 4.5 meters and 1 story to 7.245 meters and 2 stories in order to construct an accessory garage with a recreation area above be approved.
Seconder, please. Councillor Boot, thank you. That gets the issue on the table. Now, discussion. Councillor Barkle.
In a previous discussion on variance permits, the point was brought forward, which I think most of us agree that we only usually give a variance permit if there's a particular reason, unique circumstances that usually to the lot, the shape, the topography, and things like that. In this case, I don't see any, particular reason to alter things, to provide a variance, other than the whim of the homeowner that this is what he wants to do, something different. And that's not really the way I think we've done things before.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It reminds me of a discussion we had last council meeting.
Mm-hmm.
The way I look at variances is if this was something you'd be able to do on a normal lot without varying, then I can, you have a case for being varied, for varying it. To me, it just looks like he just doesn't like the bylaw, and that's not really a good reason to pass a variance, as far as I'm concerned. If there's an issue with the bylaw, then we should look at the bylaw, and we shouldn't just pass variances. But if there's no problem with the bylaw, and there's no problem with the lot, then I don't see the argument for a variance.
Thank you. Councillor Carlson.
I have one more question for the Director of Development Services. I'm looking at the pictures and looking at the map, and I wonder how, if this is the main garage, or it is a garage, how it will be accessed. I don't see much space. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Peak.
Yes, to Dean, is there a garage attached to the house at this point?
Yes.
So this would be a second garage with a living area above it.
No.
Variances can be applied for regardless of the circumstances, and that doesn't purport that it's an incorrect variance to be applied for. I do have some difficulty at having dwelling space above a garage. I don't have a difficulty with a garage and a shop at the back of this property, but I do have some difficulty with a living space above that garage.
Councillor Barkle.
Councillor Peak, I don't think there is any plans for a living space above this.
Well, it's a living space in terms it's a room that people will be doing things
okay.
in.
I thought
It
you
is
meant
not
a
a kitchen,
residency.
doesn't have a bedroom, but it is a living area.
Living area, okay.
Okay, anybody else? Councillor Barkle.
Further to what Councillor Holmes said, there's a good example of the second reason why we might give a variance is when council doesn't like the bylaw, and a good example of that is the carriage houses and the size of carriage houses. We've done 2 or 3 variances in that respect and have asked staff to amend the bylaw, but this doesn't seem like something that we would want to see amended down the road to permit other people. This is entirely different.
Yeah, I think in reference to that, I don't want to get off the topic, but yeah, we've been looking at the sizes to be more in line with other communities. I think that's what we were looking at. At any rate, I tend to look at the neighbors' concerns as well, and also look at the real object. And as Councillor Barkle pointed out, the ideas of need because of topography, etc. there's lots of times variances are required just because of the nature of the lot, et cetera. Personally, I can't support this. So, Councillor Boot?
I, like many of the other councillors and our mayor, I have some problems with this as well. Not only have we heard from 3 or 4 different neighbors that are opposed to it, the sheer size of it, with it being 28 by 45, 40, that's 1,260 square feet per floor. And having that second floor with that extra, what is it? 16 feet or whatever it is for the 2 floors. I just don't think that this is a development variance that I can support.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Motion is carried, and none were in favor. Thank you. Pardon me? Motion's denied, I'm sorry. Yeah. Blame it on the strepsils or whatever here. Okay, motion's denied. Moving on to 11.2. Development variance permit again. Mr. Strachan.
Thank you, Mayor. As noted, we have a second development variance permit. This one is for number 16 at 10605 Cedar Avenue. Lot 16 is similar to, we saw a variance application a month ago for Lot 9 within this strata development. All of the units within this development were constructed at a setback that was previously in the bylaw of 4.5 meters. However, the zoning bylaw changed. The vacant lots have now been sold and people are wishing to build on there, and they are proposing to construct the new homes at the same setback as the old homes. And in order to do that, they need to apply for a variance to reduce the setback in order to comply with today's zoning bylaw. We received no letters or correspondence on this application.
Okay, thank you. Is there any member of the public or the proponent? Is the proponent here to speak at all? No, any member of the public would like to speak to this? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed. Council, have you got any questions of our planner? Hearing none, would someone like to bring the resolution forward, please? Councillor Carlson.
I'll bring forward 11.2 as presented.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Boot, thank you very much. All in favor? It's unanimous, none opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
You should say the motion to approve because.
Okay, the motion to be approved.
Just so the public knows what we're doing.
Okay. We're on Morrow Avenue, 11.3, Mr. Planner.
Thank you. As noted, this is a third development variance permit application. This one is for 12601 Morrow Avenue. This application is a little different, and this one is related to retaining walls. The applicant is seeking to re-landscape their front yard, and as part of that process, slides went a little crazy here. As part of that process, they're planning on taking out the plant materials in the front yard area and regrading it before they replant the landscaping. They're wanting to contour it out. Currently, it slopes from the house to the street, and they would like to create some level areas in the front yard area. In order to do that, they require 2 retaining walls. The 2 retaining walls are 4 feet in height and would comply with the bylaw in the front yard setback area, but you'll note that the 2 walls come together. This is in order to keep the elevation even with the foundation of the house and still allow for a driveway to get, existing driveway to carry traffic to the rear of the property. That brings them up to 8 feet. Which is in excess of the bylaw allowance. They're allowed to have 4 feet, then a setback of 4 feet and 4 feet again, vertical. But this particular setup would require them to do 8 feet component to the retaining wall. They're required to have the retaining wall designed by an engineer as well as the installation supervised by an engineer under a building permit, which they've applied for, and the requirement for the variance was noted as part of that process we didn't receive any correspondence or notes on this application.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Holmes.
As the municipality is the property owner to the downhill from this development, do we have any concerns?
Yes, I asked you earlier if you wish to speak. Oh, I'm sorry. You may do so now if you like, yeah.
My name is Sue Wickert, and I live at this address.
You speak up, please.
My name is Sue Wickert. I live at this address. We have had our property resurveyed. We have had the engineer come in, the same engineer that was used for the project where you place the piping to the treatment plant. We have a professional landscaping company working on this. The reason that we are doing this project is that the original dry stack wall that is there is probably in excess of 30 years old, and whose height in total is 8 feet, is failing, it's sloughing. We looked at 2 scenarios before we went for this. You could go 4 feet and then 4 feet again. As an entity, the wall is not as strong as it will be if it is built from 1 footing. There will only be a portion of it along the side where there are no neighbors that is adjacent to the public walking path. However, there is a driveway between the base of the wall, footings, and the end of our lot, which is down the slope towards the public walking path. And that is a good 25 feet. No neighbors will see an 8-foot wall. The only reason we're embarking on this project is because it will protect the integrity of our property. All of the vegetative area in the front, which is a monoculture of cedar and a bit of juniper, is now suffering from phytophthora. It's dying. It's going to be a fire hazard. We plan to re-landscape it with native plants using very little water. There will be no evergreens. We live in a forested face area, so we're very cognizant of dangers like that. We've measured from the corner of our house out to our property tags, and there is a good 25 to 28 feet. The wall itself, from the base of the wall, will probably be about 16 feet, maybe 14 feet, before it even impinges on the walking path. It would be impinged on the walking path because part of the slope belongs to the municipality, and not with that is ours. So I hope I've answered all your questions. It's merely to improve the integrity of our property, as I said, because the dry stack wall is not on the property in the first place, on the bottom property, and it is.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. Could I just ask the planner just to confirm that it wouldn't have any effect on the adjacent municipal property?
That's correct. We identified that it would be set back from the property and would not directly impact the adjacent parcel.
Good. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, would someone like to bring that resolution forward, please? Councillor Boot. It's 11.3.
That the development variance permit application for Lot 1, Plan 40326, District Lot 2543, ODYD 12601 Morrow Avenue, to vary zoning bylaw 2004-50, Section 5.2.2, to increase the maximum retaining wall height from 1.2 meters to 3.0 meters be approved.
Thank you. And the seconder, please. Councillor Peak, thank you. Any further discussion? Seems very straightforward. Thank you. All in favor? Motion carries and it's approved. And none opposed. Thank you. 11.4, Mr. Planner.
Thank you. The next item is an update for the Banks Crescent project. You have before you a report from both myself as well as Chris Johnson, our Director of Works and Utilities, providing some updates on where we're at with a number of the items. The applicant is conducted this past weekend some deep water samples from Okanagan Lake. They are planning on presenting a table to the district this week that outlines the different options for an alternate water source for the freshwater fisheries and the plus and minuses of each one of the sort of options that are out there, and a recommendation and hopefully beginning discussions with the freshwater fisheries on which is the best option from their perspective to pursue. There's no update at this time on the Penticton Indian Band. We continue to forward new information as we get it to them and correspond on other issues, but there's been no emerging issues with this particular application at this point in time. The Regional Districts Committee, we haven't yet heard of scheduling. We understand they're going through some staff changes at the Regional District, and a new staff member is being assigned this committee as part of their work schedule. And that hasn't happened yet, but it's going to be happening hopefully in the near future. The environmental assessment report was updated. We'd been waiting for our environmental planner to review it. It arrived last week. The environmental planner has reviewed it. You'll see her comments within your packages. And the report, the updated report, of note is that it meets the terms of reference of the OCP guiding, or terms of reference from the OCP on environmental reporting. It's noted that there is a requirement for an environmental DP, and there are some pieces of inventory data in particular that are identified that would be collected should this application proceed to that level where there's a final site plan, final architectural drawings, and the true impact of the development is known on the piece of particular land, the level 1 piece of land, as well as what the landscaping and other components of remediation are going to be looking like. The Finance Department is continuing to work on the analysis and reporting for it. Engineering has submitted a number of documents back to, of reviews back to the applicant. The applicant has indicated they will be responding back to the district with modifications to those design drawings as well as to those the traffic inventories sometime this week, as what they're hoping to have her to return. The final item is related to the OCP, and we added a memorandum to your package today. It includes some items, and I'll just begin with it on the basic elements of the official plan, Your Worship.
Sorry, Councillor B.
If I may ask a question of the previous part of the report before you go to the OCP?
Sure.
It would just be easier if I asked it now. In looking at the number 1 with the Freshwater Fisheries Society and the update there, could you just clarify to me that exploring the options, when that comes forward, is the discussion with the fisheries to find out what option they would support? Or is this a discussion with all the parties and then we get a recommendation through our own development service department recommending which is the best option?
I believe the second is what we've discussed to date, is hopefully, and we haven't yet received the information, but we intend, when we receive the information, to forward it to the freshwater fisheries along with the request to meet, to get together, to discuss it. The indication that we'd received from the Freshwater Fisheries Society was when there was new information or new technical information and not just the same old information, that they would, again, be willing to have discussions about which option would be their preference, as well as to review the data that's going to be provided on the different water sources being looked at.
Thank you very kindly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So I take from that, Mr. Planner, that freshwater fisheries will be an integral to the decision about the contingency, is what you're saying.
They will be engaged as soon as we have information to provide to them, and that request will be made, and we're hoping that they will participate, but it will be up to them. And
Okay,
we will
thank
report back to council the results of those discussions.
Okay, thank you.
May I also
Yeah,
ask a
yeah,
question?
go ahead.
Again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we go on to the OCP part of this report, number 3 that talks about the environmental assessment reporting, you have in there that Allison Pete will be completing her final review and that you hope to have that to us before this council meeting. That's what we got this afternoon, am I correct?
That's what you got this afternoon, was the updated report, as
Okay.
well as the Allison Pete's comments on it, and confirmation that it meets the terms of reference for the OCP, which is the criteria we laid out to the biologist, and was the discussions that have been going on for the last month or so.
Okay.
Is ensuring that it meets the OCP requirements before it's brought forward to council.
And so now this goes to Flinro?
Yes, it'll be forwarded to Flinro. We received initial comments from Flinro along with the request to receive the final report when it's ready.
Right.
As well as we have had a request from the Penticton Indian Band
Yes.
to also receive that final report. So now that we've confirmed with our environmental planner that it is in compliance with the terms of reference, we will then forward it to those 2 parties.
And then they will be providing a referral response, is that correct?
That's-
The ministry?
Flinro has indicated that they will.
Okay.
As well as the Penticton Indian Band did indicate that they would review it, but the Indian Band did not provide any promises of providing a referral response. But there was information that they asked to receive. They did receive the initial reporting. We sent copies of all of the reports off the website. We put them into PDFs and forwarded to them at their request for circulation. And we have not received any new correspondence from them this time. We received a letter earlier this year from James Pepper of the Penticton Indian Band, but no further correspondence on this item at this time.
So once we get the response from the Ministry of Forest Lands and Natural Resources, is it at that point that it's considered final enough to send on to the Penticton Indian Band? Or would you send what you have already at the same time as you send it to Flinro?
Yeah, so it's being referred to Flinro not out of a statutory requirement, just out of a request, because they've had a number of people from the community contact them, so they just want to be up to date on what's going on with the particular project.
Okay.
So it's not that we're sending it to them as a regulatory body to approve it.
Okay.
It's just simply for their information. They've had a number of people from the community that have contacted them with the profile of the project in the paper and so forth. They wanted to see what was being reported directly, as well. So it's independent of the information being sent to that. And the only criteria we're utilizing for this report is the terms of reference from the OCP. The guidance behind that, there's a lot of regulatory and guide material that's available through the province for these types of reportings. But at this point, with this type of an application, it's specifically looking at what we have within our regulations and our approval requirements for environmental reporting.
Great. Thank you so much. That's nicely detailed for me. Thank you.
Councillor Holmes.
So for the environmental report, since we just got it, I haven't really had a chance to go into any detail, but I do have questions. When's the right time to ask questions about that? Is it now, or is it will there be another opportunity?
You can probably ask questions unless you need, we've just received the final thing today.
Yeah.
So if you need more time before
Well,
you want to ask questions.
will we be discussing it at some point, or is it just?
I think that I would recommend likely that we put it on for discussion next week. It just came today. We wanted to ensure that you got it since it was referred to in the report. But we can include it as a discussion, not just as an item next week, but as a discussion item, I believe, next council meeting, I think would be fair.
Okay.
Certainly could ask questions, but I think it would be best to have time to digest it.
I've went through the report this afternoon, but again, I don't think any of us can fully appreciate the detail without spending a bit more time on it. So I'd appreciate some time before we have a full discussion. Mr. Strachan.
And it would be great for myself to spend some time with our environmental planner. She's going to be coming in next week. We're going to review it so that we fully understand what's in the report. We did receive her comments, but unfortunately we only had about 5 minutes of time today to discuss it. So it would be give us an opportunity to get up to date with her and then probably be more well-equipped to answer council's
Okay,
questions.
good, thank you. Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, so the second part of our this report today is to talk about the official community plan. The memorandum that we prepared, it was as a result of some discussion and questions that recently arose. So we're providing some pretty basic elements to what an OCP is and sort of how it fits into the structure of bylaws and regulation in a community. So these are the guiding and regulatory components of the official community plan that come out of the Local Government Act. And these are sort of the statements that establish what an OCP is going to be. So the hierarchy of these types of plans are really quite important in that the hierarchy runs from the regional growth strategy, which is a cooperative effort amongst regional partners, through to the OCP, which is the higher level document within the municipality itself. Although it flows from the regional growth strategy, this is where the statements of objectives and policies fall within the community. The strategic component of it begins to get more technical as you move into the OCP. So you see components required under legislation around density, around land use, and how it's managed in the community. And there's a series of items that are required. There's more information in your memo there that are required under legislation that must be within an OCP. So it's intended to have a more detailed strategic plan for the community, but not to the level of when you get into a zoning bylaw. We're getting into the technical side of development, which is talking about setbacks, talking about site coverage, talking about land uses and specific uses, whereas the OCP is a more general document that talks about the higher level designation of land for agricultural use or commercial use or residential use within the community. The OCP also carries a lot more public consultation when they're developed. They're intended to be a reflection of the community's objectives and policies, and not necessarily directly of the council of the day. They're intended to truly be a broader document that captures more than just a narrow perspective. It's intended to be out in the community. So the development of those consultation plans is usually quite extensive, long in duration, and tries to capture as many voices as possible, from youth to seniors to people who would not necessarily normally participate in local government, to hear what they have to say about what's important to them in the community and what's important for the future. So that's the first part of the memo that you have before you, is talking about these components of what an official community plan is and what it is not, and then how the process works for an amendment to the OCP. So there is the opportunity to apply for an amendment to the OCP, and which is what we have, council has before them with this particular application. They've applied to amend the OCP, and people have the ability to do that. The public can apply to amend the bylaw for an application. The other amendment process that can sometimes take place is council itself can bring forward a direction to initiate a planning process, such as a downtown plan or a neighborhood plan, that will include an OCP amendment. So those are two different types of amendments, and that one can be triggered by someone from the public, and the second can be by council themselves. Both of them are treated in a similar way in the fact that they have a standard process that they need to follow. They follow through with a public hearing, with consultation with the community, with notification to neighbors in the specific parcel piece. When it's a larger scale, like a neighborhood plan, there may not necessarily be letters sent out to all property owners. Notification is done through other means, just through social media, as well as through the general media, to get the word out that the consultation is taking place. So that brings us down to the specifics of this particular application. So the proposed OCP amendment for this property is to move from an agricultural designation to a high-density residential designation. So these are two separate land use designations within the OCP. And a land use designation is a specific geographical area that's recognized and noted on the map. So you're moving from something that's a general policy that applies to the entire community to something that's geographically connected. It's connected to a space of property in the community. So this application is to change a particular series of parcels for the proposed development to this new designation. So the first component we looked at in the OCP is related to the policies that are around urban growth areas. So these are the 5 policies that sort of come out from that section that were reviewed as a part of the initial application and then re-reviewed when I came aboard in January. And these are the items that, you know, the OCP is a great visionary document, but it could also be somewhat ambiguous at times. It's not specific, and that rolls back to sort of the hierarchy of planning. It's not intended to be necessarily as specific as we sometimes want it to be. So there's a lot of interpretation that has to take place when you apply a document like this to a land use. And it is a comprehensive plan. And a comprehensive plan, by just dictionary definition, means it's all inclusive. But from a planning perspective, it means it's bringing in multiple disciplines and multiple components that are not necessarily all from the same area. So you're looking at social functions, economic functions, and planning functions as part of the document. So it has all of these components that are then mixed with the natural resources of the community, as well as the environmental and hazards within the community. So all of these things come together comprehensively within the OCP. So you can see when that all gets put together and you have something that's trying to create specific objectives and policies that are at that level, a community-wide level, you begin to get some policy and some direction that's somewhat general. So it's open for interpretation at that point. So there is some interpretation that takes place with some of these policies. They have to be reviewed. We do, from a staff perspective, we review it for our professional opinion, and we provide that professional opinion to council. So we look at these individual policies and we review what's proposed in development and then make a recommendation to council based on that. But ultimately, it's council's decision to review these in the context of the information that you receive from the applicant, the information that's also in other plans like the agricultural plan, the cultural plan, other components that you've received from the public's input, and you have the big job of then weighing all of those pieces and making a decision. So where we are right now is we're still in the information gathering. We've got a number of components that you'll see in these objectives and policies that are question marks at this point in time because we're waiting for infrastructure pieces. We had a piece today that we received, which was we were waiting for the environmental reporting. So when we get to the natural resource component of the OCP, you'll see that some of those questions are starting to come to an answer. Whether that fully answers the objective or not is going to be up to council. We provide our best opinions on these things, but ultimately it will be with you people as mayor and council to make that final decision. So in reviewing the initial proposal, and I did review it in detail with the OCP, we did find enough synergy with the objectives and policies of the OCP to support the application proceeding. So it substantively met the objectives and policies within the OCP to a level that we support it going forward in the process. So that's where we're at today. Previously, it was our previous Director of Development Services. I reviewed his summaries on it from November and concurred with his conclusions that there is enough substantive compliance with the OCP objectives that it could move forward from a planner's perspective. These are all components, though, that are up for council's deliberation as well. And our professional opinion on these things, you're going to be weighing a different set of values and a different set of characteristics than your professional planner will. And there's also other values in the community that you're bringing to the table that you're going to consider. So I'd encourage you to look at these different pieces. We're starting with the urban growth area and look at the components that we have and think about what the application does and whether there's any questions on what we've come to the conclusion is that it substantively complies with this OCP section. Does council want to begin?
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Barkle.
I think the magic word you said and all that is how much weight we might give, because it seems like some objectives could, in any particular application, be conflicting with each other. And we, and so would it be, I guess that's really, I guess my point is that I see that we have to decide how much weight to give to each one of these objectives. And some people might have some sort of feeling that one aspect of things would be so overriding that they couldn't support something that, yeah. Just a comment, I guess.
Councillor Carlson.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this Shaughnessy Springs is in the urban growth area and designated future development area in our current OCP as of 2014. Is that?
That's correct.
That's what I see, and I think that's probably why the proponent even brought this forward in the first place. But there's a lot of other stuff that's involved in that as well.
Yeah, and we certainly can skip. So there's within the section related to the specific area, which is the lower town strategic plan, there is a policy within that plan, or sorry, an objective within that plan that speaks directly to the Shaughnessy Springs properties. It doesn't identify the type or necessarily the format of residential development, but this has certainly played a role in the interest in the property, I'm sure. But exploring the opportunities for additional residential development on the Shaughnessy Springs property. And then it goes on to talk about density and so forth. So there is a specific policy within the OCP that speaks to that parcel. Having said that, the designation that it currently holds doesn't correspond with it. So
Right.
what's taken place is there's a policy that says explore this, but we're not going to assign a designation for development today. So in other words, the council at the time, or the planners at the time, when they got together, said, we would like to explore this in the future, but we're not going to allow this to have a designation for development. We want to be a part of that conversation.
Right.
We don't want to pre-designate it as a development parcel. They want that OCP amendment process, which is we're in now, which is a serious consultation to it. So they want that process to happen with a specific application. So they didn't assign a designation to it for a particular type of residential development. So this is there to explore it, but doesn't assign the land use designation to it.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Councillor Traynor.
This question is for Mr. Strachan. In your memorandum that we received today, there's a line in here that says, based on the review of the information available, I agreed with the staff conclusion that with improved pedestrian access, the application does meet the objectives and policies of the OCP and support the process continuing. So you talked about improved pedestrian access, but then in the LARC letter that they sent us on April 24th, which was about finding alternatives for water sources, they said at the very end that they believe that they are pleased to be moving forward with the development concept of a new water source. And they said, we believe this amenity contribution to the District of Summerland responds to a stronger community desire than the previously proposed stairwell connecting McDonald Place to McDonald Street. So that's pedestrian, part of their pedestrian plan, I guess. So I'm just wondering if you had a comment on that.
I do. It's the so there's one piece of the infrastructure that was proposed originally that when we reviewed it with other staff and as well as with the proponent, it was going to be a problematic construction and problematic for maintenance. It was proposed to be a wooden staircase down a steep slope. So we had some construction issues as well as some concerns on how we're going to maintain and eventually replace it, especially with a wood structure. So this is a structure similar to what the Ministry of Forests uses, where they put in a wood frame and then they backfill it with crushed gravel, and that would be the staircase. So there hasn't been a final determination on any of the amenity or infrastructure pieces yet. The discussion has been around whether staff would support that particular component. We noted at the last update on the Banks Crescent application that after this letter arrived, that this is still open for discussion. The final decision will only be made by council on what amenities are required. This component, though, we likely wouldn't support because of the concerns with the safety of it and the maintenance and the impact it can have on that particular corridor of land in order to build it, because it's quite steep. To go back to the beginning of your question in regards to why we note the pedestrian as a component. So one of the key objectives is connectivity for pedestrians. This particular site doesn't satisfy those concerns. So that's a part of what's going on with this process of information gathering, is we're identifying things within our policies and our bylaws that are deficient. And those would be then what we would be asking the applicant to supplement their application. And they're calling them amenities, but really they're actual just critical components in order for the project to meet the city's bylaws, the city's OCP. So this particular one was identified quite early, so it arrived in your packages in November as being noted as a deficiency. Is our OCP objectives is to have pedestrian connectivity to high-density development. In order for them to propose a land use change to high-density development, they have to demonstrate how it would be pedestrian accessible. So that's what they've done with their road infrastructure. The trail component was a supplemental to that, so we're hoping that that would still satisfy the pedestrian connectivity through the roadway infrastructure without this specific trail that we feel may be complicating for public works in particular in the future.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to ask just something about a planning principle, which I think our OCP supports, and I just would like you to confirm that or whatever. I grew up in suburban Toronto, where there's no shortage of high-density housing, and large apartment buildings and whatnot. But even in Toronto, they're all these high-density places are on busy streets, busy roads, and the community, the residential, the low-density, neighborhoods are the quiet neighborhoods are remained intact, kind of tucked in behind the busy streets, and even when you look around the Okanagan, the Kelowna, it's the high density are on busy streets, and the quiet neighbors are left to be, so to speak. Now, is that kind of and to me, is that a planning principle of any kind? And why don't you see it, what's being proposed here, anywhere else? And why would it work here where it doesn't seem to work anywhere else?
So the planning principle is kind of a chicken and the egg scenario. Did the high traffic road come first, and then the high density development come afterwards as a result of that area only being able to be acceptable to a high density type of development? Or did the high density development come and then the infrastructure followed? In most big cities, the answer is the infrastructure came, and so you're planning to deal with that infrastructure. You got to deal with a four-lane highway, and the planning principle behind it being that higher density development will be more accepting of intrusion by noise and other components than low-density residential. So the idea that people are living in a more urban lifescape in an apartment than they are in a single-family dwelling. Therefore, they're going to accept a higher level of intrusion by infrastructure through major roadways and so forth. So that's kind of the principle behind it. There's also a series of principles that are happening in bigger cities around nodes of development. So between nodes, in Vancouver, the example is the SkyTrain station. And the SkyTrain station can have a capacity of upwards of 20,000 population, and they have a small centrifugal circular model that high density goes out from. But on the transit routes, it's quite interesting to watch because that high density then stretches down the route because it is intrusive, right? So it is a component you see in cities, but not necessarily because high density is better placed next to that infrastructure. It's placed next to that infrastructure because that is a land use that's more accepting of the intrusion of that infrastructure into its use. So yeah, it is true that you see that more commonly, but not necessarily always for the reasons that you were sort of alluding to. You do see multifamily developments in a variety of areas, particularly today when people are choosing different lifestyles and wanting to be more flexible with their space, but not necessarily being in the downtown or in the urban setting. So you're seeing in interior cities, in Kelowna and Kamloops, for example, and Penticton as well, residential higher density developments taking place in different settings. The first setting that we saw it in the Okanagan Valley was around the golf courses, where suddenly they were all single family for many years, and then suddenly they started putting in these nodes of higher density because people wanted that other option in still having that landscape placement. So then it becomes down to diversity of market, and the OCP does speak to that, offering diversity of opportunities for living accommodation inside a community, and that's important for a number of reasons.
Anybody else? Councillor Peak.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much, Dean. When we talk, when you speak about nodes, is that like, because different neighborhoods change over time, and they can change for the kind of application we're having now. They can change because there was somebody wants to develop a golf course. This happens to be a seniors area. But there are other times where you just have a neighborhood change where there might be condos, it might be a different kind of densification. Are there particular elements that speak to that kind of neighborhood change?
There is well, this particular one does in the Lower Town plan, or the Lower Town strategy, speaks to opportunities for more intensive development within the existing fabric of the community. And that's based on a couple of principles that are threaded throughout the OCP, which is the concept of sustainable development through compact community. So instead of continuing to grow outwards, you're growing inside to get yourself denser. The trick with that, and Summerland is not different than any other community in BC, the trick to that is what is acceptable densification in any particular area. So it can be an application like this that can be a controversial densification, or it can be as simple as carriage house in a residential neighborhood that doesn't have carriage houses, where it's only one extra unit in that whole block, but people are very concerned about what it means for their personal space, and rightfully so. So densification, you see a lot of OCPs talk extensively about it since sustainability became a key pillar that carries through the official community plan. We want to see compact, developed neighborhoods. And at an OCP level, that works really quite well. You can say that, as a community, that's what we want to see. But then when you get down to the detail of a particular parcel and you begin to assign density to that parcel, that's where things can get interesting. So now we're at a stage where, yes, the OCP says that they would like to see densification, but now we have an application for a specific parcel for that densification, and now it's a totally different discussion. There's all these other factors that are talked about in the OCP that then have to play into it, including the existing neighborhood, the community input, and all these other pieces that make it much more complicated for council than just that statement in the OCP, which when you read it is quite easy to digest. When you take it to the landscape level and start to apply it to a parcel, it's a very different discussion.
Anybody else? Excuse me, anybody else? Councillor Barkman.
While we're talking about planning on a high level, what do you do if all your planning principles say, we should have densification, it's a good thing, and people drive less and stuff like that, but the buying public says, I want to have my quarter-acre lot with the white picket fence, and that's the house they're looking for. And that's what, and the developers come and say, well, this is what the market tells us we want. How do you resolve that?
Well, there's a couple of ways to do that. None of them are really all that efficient because we as a development service department, we don't build anything, right? The private market or the community builds things. So really in a role of encouraging and regulating what takes place in the marketplace. which isn't an easy thing to do because we're really on the outside trying to work things in. So you have to find ways to encourage the development community to move towards what the OCP wants to see. So the way you can do that is incorporated in the OCP. You see it with density bonusing, for example. So you can affect the bottom line or the pro forma of a developer by additional density if they follow particular regulations within your bylaws. So if they provide additional space for environmental protection, or they reduce their footprint by having underground parking, they get to have more units. So you're creating that carrot, not just the stick. And the carrot's more effective than the stick for the most part. But you still need to keep that stick against the wall in case something goes sideways. So yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, and it can take a lot of patience because you can have an aggressive official community plan policy that's going to take the community in a direction, but unless you've got a developer out there willing to build it, or you as a municipality are willing to build it yourself, it may never get built. And you do see that in communities where they get specific use for a specific parcel of land in mind, and it just doesn't get built because no one is either willing to take that particular development on, or they can't make money doing it. It has to be, as eventually the developer has to make a dollar in order to support what they want to do. So it's a tricky balance, and the planning principles behind it are very dynamic because every community is different and every generation is different, and you need to have a dynamic perspective in order to do that. Most of the planning principles that I've been taught and been presented to me over the years are related to big cities. And when you talk about, for example, the nodes, well, a node in Vancouver is 20,000 people. So when you try and scale that down to a node in a place like Summerland, it doesn't work. You know, the formula tells you can have a 7 square foot convenience store, right? Like it just doesn't work, right? So as a planner, it's a very frustrating thing that we push back to our profession on and saying, come on, let's talk to us in smaller towns and not just the Vancouver-centric planning principle. So we as a group have to be a little bit more creative and work together and say, okay, well, this doesn't work because you can't scale it back, but if you look at this way instead, there's maybe a different solution. So do you want to continue on?
Sure, go ahead.
So the urban growth, the next one is the actual community land use. So within this current designation, there's a series of 3 objectives and 2 policies that speak to its current land use, related to one being the integrity of the ALR, the recognition of agriculture as a legitimate land use for constraint when planning. And this comes back to that difficult balancing act that council needs to do, where they balance the viability of the parcel on its ability to be used for agricultural purposes and all the other things that are going to play into this application for consideration, which, you know, on some days does not make council's job very enviable. But that is your role, is to balance all of these things. As a planner, we will provide you a recommendation from a land use planning perspective, which is somewhat free of direct community consultation, but isn't, in the fact that we're using the documents that have been created through the community to provide those recommendations. So is there any questions on the current designation or land use?
No,
Okay.
the only thing is, I guess it's indicated, just jump back there.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, I guess it's 7.3, 7.2.3.4. Okay, it's not an ALR, yeah. Okay, I just wanted, I
Yeah,
wasn't
and
sure whether that had been included.
Another item worth noting is 7.2.6, which is this is the adoption or pursuing of an agricultural plan for the community. And there's secondary, this is a secondary plan, so this flows out of the OCP into that secondary plans, which is where neighborhood plans are and other community plans. And the policies within that, I didn't list them off here, but they are listed in the report, talk about what which components of agriculture council wishes to see, or the community wishes to see as objectives through that process.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, just on 7.2.2.234, promote the inclusion of productive agricultural land into the ALR boundary. Is there any other non-ALR agricultural land in the community, or is this the last piece?
I think the question was, is there any agricultural land?
Any non-ALR agricultural land that we could promote to include in the ALR, as that policy says? Or is this the last piece?
I think I would have to probably do a little GIS exercise and actually see what is being recognized as utilized as agricultural land to answer that question for you. So I'll get back to council at the next meeting with an answer to that, because that would be a little bit of a GIS exercise with who's claiming to utilize their property as farm status and their for their taxation.
But it's
Yeah.
also zoning, no?
Well, it is and it isn't. It would depend on if it's actually being utilized as agricultural property.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be in the ALR to be assessed as agricultural
correct.
land, as long as it meets the criteria for the amount of product or produce that's produced, correct? Pretty
Correct. So
much,
we'll definitely get an answer back.
Yeah.
We'll just have to do a little bit of a GIS exercise with our GIS.
Yeah,
technicians.
there would be substantial areas that are not in the ALR, throughout the community. But at any rate, thank you.
I can tell you that the land immediately south of that is non-ALR land, but is agricultural, the next hump over, just south, about 5 or 6 acres, just south of Banks Crescent.
That's
I'm sure there's other pieces.
Faircrest, is that what you're talking about?
Or, yeah, it's on,
On the other side of Beach Market. Off Carter?
no, just
Or
south.
off,
On
Switchback?
Faircrest?
Go down
Anyway.
Bristol, and that piece there, Faircrest? Yeah, Faircrest, there's
Yeah.
a large, I guess it's vineyard and such.
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
Anyway, we're
What
getting...
we'll do is we'll put together a map and an explanation for council
Sure.
with our next update.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
So the OCP then, well, speaking to so this is the land use designation that the applicants have applied for, which is the high-density residential designation. The OCP speaks a little bit more to this type of a land use designation. It speaks to the different components of it. Unfortunately, this OCP, the way it's set up, it kind of jumps back and forth between specific regulation or specific objective and quite wide, broad-based community objective. So you kind of have to look at each of the individual objectives in the context that they're provided. Some of them provide some fairly detailed explanations, and some of them are quite open for interpretation. So items that you sort of jump out are, for example, the compatibility with adjoining uses. So, there is significant concern from the neighborhood about it not being a single-family development. So, this is it compatible with adjoining uses? Then other pieces of the OCP talk about diversity in the neighborhood. So, in the same section, you're talking about accommodating a wide range of choices of housing types. So, if we follow one policy and we carry all of our neighborhoods as single-family dwellings, we're not meeting our other objectives. So it's that balancing act that council needs to bring to the table and needs to be considered. Is that where is that balance? Where is that sweet point in the community where you're getting the new housing types that are needed for a variety of reasons, as well as are you not adversely impacting your neighborhoods? So it's definitely a balance. So the component that you see in items 3 and 4 are what was Councillor Traynor was talking about in relation to the infrastructure pieces. These 2 pieces of infrastructure were identified at application as being deficient. So when they went through the application, they said, hey, you got to address these items. So what you received in November was centered around those items. But you'll notice as we go through some of the other objectives, there may be other things that come out, that come out not only through the studies, the additional studies, but the staff review of those studies that need to be addressed. And what we're hoping to do is when we get all the information together, we're going to come back to council with a summary report of the community consultation, of the studies, and provide a recommendation on what is needed to satisfy the objectives and the policies of the OCP, what's going to be needed to establish infrastructure that's going to meet these policies that state quite clearly that this is a developer pays for itself scenario. They need to pay for the infrastructure that's required in order to service the development. So until we have those infrastructure, and we've identified those infrastructure pieces, we're not giving council a complete recommendation on what's required, whether it's sewer lines or water lines or stormwater or contribution to lift stations. We don't have that information. That's what's critically being gathered right now, because those can be big ticket items. So it's really important that we understand what that's going to be, and that's what that package of recommendations would come forward in that summary report. We'll outline those components. This is not a static review. We don't review the OCP at the beginning and then say, okay, the OCP is all tied up, so we'll set it aside and we'll move forward. It's something that we're referencing back to on a regular basis as we move forward, because that is the strongest measure we have of the community's vision objectives. And that's where we're moving forward on those components. Any questions about the actual high-density residential?
Just in regards to the terminology, so this proposal that's come forward is for zoning as CD7, right?
No.
Which is
Two.
Or so.
Two CDs.
Right, which is one form of high-density residential, is that?
So the high density that they're applying for is an OCP designation. So this is just a land use designation. From there, in order to build anything, because the OCP doesn't give you approval to build anything, you need zoning.
Right.
So they're also in their application rezoning.
Okay.
There isn't a zoning district that matches developments, and Summerland has had this sort of ongoing issue. There isn't a lot of zoning districts that fit with various components of industrial or residential development here. So what's done in that scenario is you create what's called a comprehensive development zone.
Right.
So it's a specific zone for that specific parcel of land. It does a couple of things for you. One thing, it creates a scenario where they are required to build what's been approved by council.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you zone to, say, just a commercial zoning district, you are relinquishing that control over what that specific structure and building and its uses will be to whatever's permitted in the zone.
Right.
So you may approve a restaurant, and if it changes to a retail store, it doesn't come back to council for that. In a CD zone, you specify the uses for a particular parcel.
So it's actually quite useful.
It is.
In a large-scale project.
It's very useful for dealing with larger projects where you want to have a stronger level of control on the form and character. This particular CD zone, the way it was designed, I didn't design it, it was done by the planners and from the applicant as well as the previous director, is a form-based coding system. So they're using a system where the box is quite clearly defined. It doesn't just say this will be the maximum height, these are the setbacks, this is your site coverage, have a good day, figure out what you're going to build. It actually specifies, these are the little shoe boxes that are going to be, this is how they're going to be set up. These are the heights so that these other characteristics are protected. So it's quite specific, and it's specific to this parcel. So it's a useful tool. It's been used for well over 25, 30 years across BC.
Okay.
I haven't seen a community that doesn't utilize it to a certain extent. Some communities, for example, Burnaby, uses them almost exclusively. Almost every application is a CD zone of some type, or it's specific to that parcel. So it really flows with how much control a council or a community wants on development, whether they want control over specific elements of single family or they want to leave people to do their thing. And every community is different.
Thank you.
I think as an example, Mr. Planner, is that, for example, I think the Wharton Street area was designated as CD8, I believe, Comprehensive Development number 8. Or 7, I can't remember which one it was. 7. And so if another iteration came along that didn't meet, they were very specific in terms of heights, types of buildings, etc. with that. So if somebody came along with a different concept, that would have to go through council's approval.
It would actually, and very importantly, it would have to go through a rezoning process
Right, okay.
that includes a public hearing and public consultation in order to change it. And that's one of the reasons that tool is quite often used with large projects, is that so you don't approve what you think is going to be developed and then find out that something different is going to happen, and then you've lost that tool, because once you get to development permit, as long as it meets the policies of the official community plan, the development permit should be approved by council. And there's legal merit with that within the Local Government Act. So the authorities are quite limited, and the most powerful position the council has that is unfettered decision making is at rezoning. So council has that ability to say no, regardless of what's in your bylaws or policy, as long as it's grounded in a reason.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
So moving on to the other components of the official community plan that are reviewed when we have an application. So the natural environment, we spoke today in regards to this piece. And I'll note actually on the previous slide, we talked to, at the bottom there, you'll see item 6, which talks to a referencing to another section of the OCP. What they're talking about there is one of the key components of an official community plan is it delineates your development permit areas. So they must be in the OCP. So if you're going to have a development permit for a type of development, it has to be listed as a policy within the OCP. So this particular one is a forming character development permit. So what we're saying with that policy is if you are doing multifamily development, we want to get a development permit for it. So as a community, we want to see the design, the colors, the landscaping, and we want council to have an approval authority over that to ensure that it fits with the other components of the OCP. And what was approved at rezoning is actually what's going to get built. When you move into the next section, which is the natural environment, you'll already see that reference to an environmental DP. So this application will require an environmental DP. The reporting that we've received and the compliance that we're looking for in that reporting is referenced in these objectives. Is there any question on that? So the development permit hasn't been applied for yet. When the final architectural drawings, if this is approved to go forward, are completed, there would be a DP, a development permit process that would include the environmental DP as well as the form and character DP, which would come back to council for consideration. The same would apply for the as a hazard area. So there is areas on the property that are red zoned. So there's a requirement for those to be depicted within the drawings, and a geotechnical engineer provide their input. This is independent and in advance of the building permit component. Building permit component is where we actually get to supervision of construction by a geotechnical engineer. And buildings like this require multiple levels of professionals, the key one being a coordinating professional. So there is one professional, it's usually the architect, who becomes the coordinator of all of the others. So they coordinate the geotechnical engineer, the structural engineer, the fire engineer, all of these professionals, and are responsible and obligated under the building code to do so in a proper manner. They provide schedules, which are guarantees of their participation in the project and their performance. So this is, the DP is identifying these hazards. It's ensuring that they're identified if the building goes to construction and are dealt with by those professionals in a proper manner.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Barkle.
Your comment there raised a question in my mind about the high hazard areas. If your lot is partly on the high hazard area and partly isn't, and you just are going to be building in the, say, the below a high hazard or above, do you still have to have like some sort of report, or you know, like where's the actual line that involves getting kind of a report? If it just crosses the corner of your property, what do you do?
Yeah, the way the policy is at this point in time, yes, if you have red on your property and you're going to be developing in the area around it, it needs to be addressed through a professional. Most building permits, even at a single family level, require a geotechnical review nowadays. It's become almost standard. It's not very common to not have a geotechnical engineer required based on either soil or components of the structure. Same thing's happening with structural engineers. People are, so what's happening with single family dwellings is people want the great room, right? They want the open kitchen, living room, dining room. So they want these great open spaces, and it's changing the way structures are built. You know, you built a house in the 80s, you built this shoebox with lots of load-bearing interior walls, and it was, you know, you didn't need a structural engineer. Now people want great big windows, or they want great open spaces, and you have these large beams, and each one of them has to have a structural engineering on it. So the way we're building houses is changing, and more professionals are involved for two reasons. One being we want different structures. The second being the building code is becoming more and more advanced, and those changes are steadily coming out. And we saw some stage changes in 2014, 2016. We're going to see some again this year, and that's a whole other discussion with council on what's coming in the next few years with the BC Building Code. So the final item we've got is that's within the OCP, and there's other policy and objectives. I think I've taken enough of your time for this point, but we're going to revisit this if this proceeds forward at another meeting as well. But this is the sort of main components that we identified in the official community plan that we felt were directly relevant to the application before council, and wanted the opportunity to talk to you about them. So the Lower Town Strategic Plan is a bit of an unusual plan. It's kind of a hybrid between a neighborhood plan and an OCP plan. It's kind of in between. It's not a full neighborhood plan where they identified land use designations for properties, but it sort of looked at what the potential could be of parcels within the area, what type of things were mostly focused on getting development to take place on the waterfront. They would sort of build that commercial viability down there and get more activity taking place. But it did more than that. It looked at what is the nucleus around the central commercial part and what other opportunities for residential were in that area that would help support commercial. So that's sort of what the strategic plan is. At some point in the future, councils may want to consider doing a Lower Town neighborhood plan and having a revamp of the consultation and revamp of the potentials, particularly with that commercial corridor. There's some wonderful opportunities down there, and we're not seeing full utilization by any means of those opportunities on the commercial side and on our beach development. And that's all I have for this evening on this one.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions of the planner?
Just a thank you.
Yeah, pretty comprehensive. Thank you very much. Okay, can we have a resolution come forward to receive the planner's report from this evening, please? Thank you. Councillor Barkwell.
Okay, I move the motion as written in the agenda.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Boot. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you very much. None opposed. Moving on to 11.5. Vendor parking. Who's food vendor parking? Who's handling that? Yourself?
That will be Dean.
Dean, sorry, Dean, go ahead.
So we have a request. You'll see the letter in your package with the report that speaks to a request to allow for a food vendor vehicle to be located out in front of the Summerland Waterfront Resort and Spa. They've applied through a letter to have that vendor be available on the street on Friday evenings only, from May to September, from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. Being their theme being a food truck Friday for their guests, and they identify a number of issues as to why they would like to have this facility. So the policies that the city has at this time and the bylaw the city has at this time do not support the use of public roadways for commercial uses. Having said that, the food truck thing has become quite expansive in recent years, and there's TV shows about it now, and there is in bigger communities large events centering around it, but they're trying to centralize them in locations where there's lots of access for people to come down and visit 4 or 5 or 6 food trucks. It would be great to see that kind of an opportunity taking place in some of our food truck locations now on the waterfront, where we could have multiple vendors that would attract people to come down and explore explore the waterfront. This particular application, we have recommended to council that it be denied. The rationale being is there is an adjacent food provider within the development next door. They weren't too concerned necessarily about the competition. More, they have limited parking there, particularly on weekends. That parking is filled, and it would impact their business and that people wouldn't have access to vehicle parking. Concern being that there would be customers coming to the food truck that would park on the street. And this is already a busy time of year. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions of the planner for this? Councillor Holmes.
So the policy is essentially it can't be on the street, right?
It's actually within the traffic bylaw, it prohibits you from having, selling something commercially from a roadway.
Okay, so is the concern, is the reason for that because it'll take away parking spaces, or what's the thinking behind that?
It's multiple levels. It's taking away parking. It's also creates a potential for conflict between pedestrians and vehicles, depending on what kind of commercial it is. We're talking about a particular type of commercial use, which is the food truck vehicle. But there are others that do retail sales of different products, sunglasses or whatever. So they do create their own sort of buzz of people around them. And if it's on a street, it can create conflicts for traffic. The vehicles themselves also can create some issues for traffic, depending on how they park and how long they're there for.
So the one at Rotary Beach, that's off from their road, that's considered off street because it's the parking lot?
It is, and we actually have specific locations at the beach that we allow, and people apply to be in those parking slots with their food truck.
Councillor Traynor.
I think mine's more of a comment, so I can wait.
No, go ahead.
I was just concerned if a food truck is parked in a parallel parking stall, then I was just wondering, I couldn't envision where the people would line up to get their food. I mean, or would it face inward?
It would face inwards.
Oh, it would face, okay.
So people, actually the sidewalk is quite nice there, so it actually would open up into the sidewalk.
Okay, that makes sense.
They're going to have to run their electrical across, so they would be required to put a cord cover over their electrical. We've already, if you note in the report, if council wished to approve it, we had a number of suggestions. One being is they not be permitted to run a generator. Just because of its location with the silt bluffs behind it, it's going to reverberate. It's also going to create noise and nuisance in the area. So, and there's plenty of opportunity to plug it in. There is light plugs on our poles out there, but there's concern about capacity, and we really would prefer that they just utilize such a short duration, utilize the power from the main building.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mayor, there was a letter that was received. It came late. It came from the commercial owner of the local lounge and grill. It's been forwarded to council, voicing his objections. It's noted in my letter that he would submit a letter. Unfortunately, it didn't arrive until this evening.
I see. Thank you. Okay, council. No further questions? Someone like to bring their resolution forward, please? Don't rush. Councillor Peake, yeah.
That council denied the request to allow a food vendor vehicle to be parked on the Lakeshore Drive in front of the Summerland Waterfront Resort and Spa at 13011 Lakeshore Drive on Fridays between 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. from May to September.
Seconder, please. Councillor Holmes. Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Carlson.
So as this has come forward to us as a denial, I'm wondering what the folks at the Waterfront Resort have said in response to seeing the agenda and noting that it may not be approved.
We haven't had further discussions with them. We met them on site. We received their letter, and then we brought it forward to council. I had a brief discussion and asked some questions in regards to what availability they have for cooking facilities within the resort itself. And they do have cooking facilities, but they're limited.
Right. I think it's a really good idea, but I do heed all of the concerns and the questions that are raised, and also noting that there are other places along there that might be safer, and perhaps people could be directed to. So I don't think that just by denying it today, it should be the end of the idea of Food Truck Friday. I think there should be some discussion further on how we might make something happen.
Councillor Holmes. Oh, just a minute. I think there was a response from the planner.
Just very quickly, you're exactly right, and our CAO noted that we do have opportunities at our beaches for vendors. We didn't get any applicants this year, so
really?
we would like to speak to the food vendors that are interested in being in the area, and maybe there's an opportunity to have them located there. It's not that far from this location. But there is other options. The restaurant is open for full families till 6:30. They do have the opportunity to expand their food services inside the resort itself. So there's lots of options. This won't be the end of the conversation if council were to deny it. We see the opportunity. If they identified that they had a list of 4 to 6 vendors that were interested, which for us is exciting because it would be wonderful to see some more vendors in the area to offer food services for people that are visiting the beach. So yes, certainly we would like to have that discussion and possibly do some form of a partnership that would help with both issues.
Thanks.
Also, I should just add before Councillor Peak that the Yacht Club also offers, walk-ins. They can come in and be served food as well. So that's actually something that the Yacht Club is encouraging for the public to come into their facility. So they have a big, reasonable sized kitchen, etc. that they're offering their services to the public as well. So there's multiple areas for people to be accommodated as far as I can see. Councillor Peak.
Yes, I'm praised the fact that there were considerations for possibly denying this application, but I see the fact that there's some good energy and synergy in having people that are available, and I think the beaches are a prime example of that, where they're out doing a family thing, they're in a particular location. I sometimes have trouble with food trucks with the idea that the people that stay here all year round and pay their taxes and have restaurants sometimes view food trucks as interfering with what they can earn. But I see the option where we have such a lovely lakefront with multiple beaches that there is an opportunity to bring the energy that food truck dining gives. And that's a different possibility, and I think that's rather exciting. So we'll see what happens as we bring the discussion in a fuller context.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what the planner said. I'd just like the message to be, rather than the message being no, the message being, well, what about over here instead? Because I think it certainly is something just for the vibrancy of the waterfront that something we would like to encourage. Yeah, that's it really generally. But I was kind of surprised when I read in the report there that the local wasn't open to children for dinner. I know on the pub side they aren't, but I'm sure I've brought my kids in there many times in the restaurant side for dinner. So I was kind of surprised when I read in the report that it wasn't open for the kids weren't included. So
I think the planner has a comment. Go ahead.
They indicated there and that they restrict the hours so that people have time to finish their dining before they switch over to their license, which is for like a pub license, for a higher liquor level license.
There's two sides. There's a pub side and a restaurant side.
Yeah.
And the restaurant side, I thought they were,
not open.
they could come in.
No, it's
Not
Not
anymore?
open not right now.
No, but during the season. No? It's all one pub now?
Yeah.
Oh, really? No. Learn
Okay.
something new every day.
Okay, so we had a mover and a seconder, right? Okay, any further discussion? None? All in favor?
This is
Okay.
for denial, correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
In favor of the motion. Okay. Favor of the motion to deny? It's unanimous, thank you. None opposed, the motion is denied. Or the-
passed.
How did I get that again?
denial is approved.
The denial is approved. That's what I was trying to say. I hate these negative things. Okay.
Just for council's information, we will be contacting them tomorrow and discussing future opportunities.
Okay,
Because we all want to see vibrancy.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that we hadn't had any applications for Rotary Beach, for example. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's
Yeah.
early, but, okay. Okay, 12.1. I think we've,
It's a standard one I can
Pardon me?
speak- It's a standard one I can speak to.
yeah. Yeah, everybody's spoken to it already, okay. So 12.1, council, you want to receive, council? Carlson?
I will move that the petitions as presented in 12.1 be received for information.
Okay, seconder, please. Councillor Boot, thank you very much. Any further discussion, any comment at all? What's listed on the website, et cetera?
No, same as every time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Passes, none opposed. Okay, 12.2, Canada 150 Mosaic.
I'll speak to this one.
Okay, thank you.
So this is a report originally written by your CAO, but the guts of it is that there are 7 locations that staff have looked at for locating the Canada 150 Mosaic, which is the 9x9 tile downstairs in the City Hall. If I would like to look at it, it's lovely. But we don't want it to be there forever. We want it to be available to the public 24/7. So attached in Schedule A are some photos of the locations that staff came up with. Not to say there aren't other ones, but if council would like to discuss and consider perhaps one of those locations for it. Some of them will require consultation with either the regional library or.
Would you speak up, Jeremy? I'm having trouble hearing
Sorry,
over
my
whatever.
mic is far away. Some of the locations do note, staff will have to speak with the regional library or the school board. So.
Okay, Councillor Boot.
I just have a quick question. 9x9, so is what we see downstairs, is it going to be reconfigured? Because it's not 9 feet tall, it's not a square, or is it?
No, it's just the total area.
It's in pieces. It's not together.
Okay, so that's what I was asking,
Yeah.
if it's going to be reconfigured.
Doesn't look square.
It's made
It's
into a
not
big
square right
It's
now.
supposed to be a
Is it?
big
Made
square.
into a big
yeah.
square.
Okay,
But
because
I
it's
like
not
it that
square
way.
now.
It's cut in half.
Okay, got it.
Got that resolved.
So it will be a 9x9,
Yeah.
so that, rather than a narrower.
Yeah, good question, though, yeah. Determines what the thoughts are.
Okay.
Councillor Carlson,
That's a really, really tough decision to make.
you bet.
I'm wondering if we can't, make one of the first tasks of our new community coordinator to put out a survey monkey or something. I don't know. I don't want to have to make that decision.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, I don't know how urgent it is, but I think it's something that we should be referred to the Cultural Advisory Committee, which we haven't appointed yet, but once we do, I would suggest that's something they ought to be looking at. To me, the important things, there's kind of two important things. You want to be able to stand back from it and look at the whole thing and see what it all is, but you also want to be able to come up close to it and see your individual tiles, and so the kids can point out, see, I did that. So those are the, so whichever site works best, for that those two things. I think that's what we need to be considered.
Councillor Barkle.
All of these are outdoor locations. How long will it last being outdoors, and should we consider
You
any
need to
indoor
speak up.
locations?
Can you speak up?
Well, yeah, all of these are outside locations. Are there any inside locations, and how long would it last outside?
My understanding is that the surface has been glazed such that they are weather resistant. So, in terms of actual lifespan, I'm not sure, but they're designed to be outside.
Councillor Peak.
I'd like to postpone making the decision. Not that I mind making the decision, but I think if we're going to have a cultural committee, I think it's a good opportunity for them to have some good discussion. And there are some of these that you might preclude having them for other reasons, so I would like to defer the decision at this point.
Okay. You're such a resolute bunch.
Well, we could go through each one if you want.
Pardon me?
We could go through each one. And,
No, I think you've made some good points. I think, we will have a community coordinator soon, and the idea of having the cultural committee look at it is a good idea. Because there's some important points, it can't be too high up, because there are shorter people that would like to be able to look at the stairs. And so, it needs to be in a location that can be viewed easily and not necessarily on a wall of an old building, for example, that might be destroyed in some. Of course, it can always be relocated, I guess. But need to be able to look at it as permanent, but a place where the general public can take a good look at it and be well presented. Councillor Traynor, then Councillor Carlson.
I'm happy to defer it, but if someone asked me now, I would vote for the library because you can stand in the park and see it. You can walk down Main Street. You can see it from the high school, and it has almost like a 180 view from that area, from that spot. So I think that would be a really nice spot. But I'm happy to hear what the cultural committee and the public thinks.
Councillor Carlson.
I tend to agree with you, but I do think we should send it to a cultural committee, and then they'll be inspired to create murals on the other buildings that we own.
I'll get out my paints.
Okay.
That was such a fun time.
Would someone like to bring a different resolution forward, please? Or a resolution?
A recommendation to deferral to send this to the cultural committee when it's formed, to be led by discussion with the community development person.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Traynor. Any further discussion? I think that's probably a good idea. Okay. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. The motion carries. Okay, 12.3. Doors open Summerland. Jeremy?
Yes. So this is a report requesting some funding from council to support the Doors Open Summerland event. Staff are quite excited about this. Unfortunately, it does take staff to accomplish it. It's a successful project. Exempt staff will do the bulk of the work, but just because of the size of the facilities and the number of members of public and visitors that we really hope are going to attend this, we want to make sure that there's enough people in all of the facilities. And some of the most knowledgeable people of each of the facilities are QP staff who've been working there for decades and have some interesting stories to make it a lively conversation. So there's a request here for support of a $4,000 fund to cover staffing costs.
Councillor Peak.
I think this is an excellent opportunity to open our doors to the public, and the money to go along with it is only sensible.
Okay, is the date hard and fast? Or is that just a suggestion?
I can comment on it.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I spoke to our CAO about the date. The date comes from her, from staff, and the main reason that date was chosen was because the fire training center, that's the best date that works for the fire training center. So because other times the firefighters are on have other things to do on other weekends. So that's the main reason. And the fire training center, that's the one thing I'm really excited about, because nobody's seen it. We as council haven't seen that building yet. So it'll be the first time anybody in the public gets to see that. So.
Yep. No, I think it's a good option. Okay. Councillor Barkman.
Does this $4,000 budget include some money for promotion, putting it in ads in the newspaper and whatever else?
We use Facebook.
The funding is generally anything related to the event.
Okay.
It's just to cover staff's time, as far as I know. So
I mean, we do want to promote it as wide as possible.
If I may, normally your advertising budget covers all the items that council decides it needs to do. I suggest that probably that budget covers
Yeah, we can do
open
it.
houses, open doors open, whatever.
Yeah, so the only question I have in terms of the $4,000, where's that coming from?
I'm not sure.
Not sure. So it's not coming out of our, for organizations and so on?
It could be from economic development, but I just had to look
Okay,
into it.
okay, yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, again, as far as I know, it's staff time. It's I don't know if it's comes from payroll budget or what it comes from, but
I
it's
see,
essentially that's the
I
money.
just wanted to be sure we weren't cutting something else short, that was all, yeah. Okay.
It says in the report that it's
Okay.
not determined at this point.
Okay, yep.
All right.
Okay, someone like to bring that forward, or did we already?
Why don't you bring it forward?
What kind of conflict of interest?
Oh, God, I'll bring it forward. That the Doors Open Summerland event proposed for Saturday, September 23rd, 2017 be supported by the District of Summerland, and further that up to the $4,000 expenditure be authorized related to this event.
Seconder, please. Counselor Trainer. Okay. What's this about, a conflict? You a
Well, I'm
firefighter?
organizing it.
Oh.
And
As long
to
as
say
you're not getting paid.
We've got lots of other, like, it's a wide community event, right? So
Yeah.
it's not,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of people, other organizations.
If you
that
reported
sign up.
all the potential conflicts, you wouldn't be able to sit here most of the time,
Right.
okay? You're involved, okay?
It's gonna be a great event. It's gonna be
Okay.
amazing.
It is.
That's what I thought.
Tremendous.
Counselor Trainer.
Tremendous.
Yeah, just to add to Councillor Holmes, I think the important thing to mention here too is that it involves businesses and any other community organization that wants to get involved. So it's not just about the municipality, but it is a great opportunity to go tour the sewage treatment plant or the water treatment plant. And I know a lot of people are interested in that. So I think it's a great idea. And I think if we can get some businesses on board as well, that'll be really good.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Opposed?
I'm only opposed because, I'm not sure where the money is coming from.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, the motion carries with one opposed. Thank you. Moving ahead to 12.4. I guess, Joanne. You've been waiting all this time. Go ahead.
So this is about a BC Active Communities grant application. It is due June 30th, so part of this is just to be authorized to submit a District of Summerland application to Plan H Active Communities grant for outdoor fitness equipment and corresponding health and fitness education and community engagement strategy. The grant is for $30,000, and yeah, there's a lot of excitement around it. It would be in sort of partnership with there's a Summerland Healthy Community Initiative that's been very active in the community that's also identified outdoor fitness equipment as a priority in the community, and it's been something many communities all around us have, invested in, and Summerland would like to do the same. And the second part is the question of location, where we would like to think about putting the site. There's been 3 different identified locations: Peach Orchard Park, and Dale Meadows Sports Complex around the loop, and Memorial Park. Both the Peach Orchard Park and Memorial Park would be more of a one solid concrete pad put down with a circuit, where Dale Meadows, if it could be done, would be separated along the 1.2 kilometer jogging track. So we just sort of listed pros and cons for each site, things to consider, just for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Holmes and then Councillor Trainer.
Is this generally an all-season, is it used all year round, or is it limited to when the weather's nice?
Yeah, it could be all season. Yes, absolutely.
Councillor Trainer.
Did the rec committee get to comment on this at all, on the location?
Not yet, no, but I have that, actually, our next commission meeting is in a couple weeks, so they could comment on that then.
Because I'm supportive of the grant, I would just like to hear their feedback on the location.
Yeah, Councillor Holmes? Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead, and then Councillor Carlson.
I was going to say the same thing, really. I think there's people in the community who have a better idea than we would where it ought to be located, and I'd like to hear what the Parks and Rec Commission has to say.
Yeah, Councillor Carlson?
Just noting the negatives that show up on here, area subject to flooding and subject to mosquitoes. Under Dale Meadows, I guess that could also go under Peach Orchard.
I know, I was thinking the same thing today. I went down on lunch hour today.
Where are your flippers? Oh.
To see if Peach Orchard, how badly it's gotten in that spot. But thankfully, the one area, it's where the old zip line is, and it's a bit higher ground, so that part actually isn't underwater. But I was thinking the same thing, that a lot of Summerland is actually subject to water right now that usually isn't.
Okay, I tend to agree that I'd like to see it go before the Rec Commission, because I'm not sold on the Peach Orchard site, personally.
That's because it's not in your backyard.
I want it in my backyard. No, the point is that we're potentially developing, more housing in the park area. There's activities there a lot with a lot of people. Things are starting to happen at Peach Orchard as well. But I'm just thinking as a more central location for the whole downtown in terms of that kind of activity, it would be good.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to consider, and one of the big pieces of this is the intergenerational connection. And every site you could kind of have some pros and cons against it. Walkability for downtown and schools is a benefit, but also having a destination for families to go to connect with the spray park and the existing playground, and then a structure all within the same vicinity there. Vicinity? Thank you.
Actually, that can easily be solved.
Pardon?
That can easily be solved.
Oh.
One location at one point, and then we'll do another one.
Yeah, that's true.
There's lots of communities that have more than one location with this type of equipment. Councillor Peak.
I'll bring forward a recommendation.
Please do.
That the staff be authorized to submit a District of Summerland application to the Plan H Active Communities Grant for outdoor fitness equipment and corresponding health and fitness education and community engagement strategy, and that staff be directed to submit the locations to the Parks and Rec Committee.
Okay, now I have one question about that, considering the timing in the grant application. Does this make this difficult?
No, it'll be fine. The Rec Commission, I believe, is set to meet next. I believe it's June 8th. And the application is due June 30th. So as long as we have permission to start, working on it.
It would have to come back to council again then, wouldn't it?
For the location. The
12th? Yeah. Okay, so it's doable. Okay.
That's good.
Okay, did we have a seconder there? Yeah, Councillor Holmes, thank you. Okay, yes, so that was referring to the...
Yeah, may I have a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Does the site have to be designated on the application?
From what I've seen, it does not.
No, I didn't think so.
So it might not.
That's sort of
wouldn't
what
matter.
prompted my
Once this
timing
goes
thing.
through, you can do your application.
Yeah.
At this point, just for clarity, at this point, we're not looking at the second part of the recommendation, correct?
I think the whole resolution was read out.
I did suggest that it go to the Parks and Recreation Committee for a site identification, or however I put it at that point.
Recommendation.
Yeah, didn't actually read that part.
That second part?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, so we're okay. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Motion carries, none opposed. You're all set. Thank you very much. I've been looking forward to that for quite some time, because they've got a good setup down in Skaha Lake area, and there's another setup in Nelson that I've used, and there's also one in Peachland along the highway there, so it's usually well received.
Nice photos, Joanne. Did you take those?
Do we have any new business?
Zoning bylaw amendment.
Just 13.1, okay. Okay, who's that, Dean? Yep.
So we have a rezoning application. The subject rezoning application is to rezone a property at 11907 Quinpeel Road. Sorry, going the wrong direction here. From its current zoning designation of to RDH. It's currently RDH residential duplex zoning. The proposal is to go to RSD1, which is residential medium lot zone. It's an interesting difference between the two zoning districts. The existing zoning district allows for duplex development. Therefore, the parcel sizes are larger. But most of the development that's taken place is single family. Both zoning districts allow for single family, but as the RDH has a smaller parcel size, or sorry, the RSD1 has a smaller parcel size, it allows for subdivision of these bigger pieces. So they're not proposing to develop it as a duplex, they're instead proposing it to develop it as two single families. So it's allowing 2 units today, but they're proposing to do a different configuration, which requires them to rezone the property in order to subdivide. Thank you.
Okay, questions of the planner? See none? Questions? It's fits as far as you're concerned?
The neighborhood fabric is somewhat disjointed in the neighborhood. There's not a consistent fabric like you see in other areas of the community. So there's a lot of variety. It's obviously happened over a long period of time. And blocks have been broken off, and then blocks have been broken apart too. So there's quite a bit of variety in the neighborhood, and this does not seem particularly out of place. The drawing, unfortunately, that you see is, oh man, sorry, mouse is going crazy here. North is this way. So the existing house is proposed to be retained as is, and then another single-family dwelling built adjacent to it. So the fabric of the neighborhood is somewhat open. There are other parcels in the neighborhood that are of that size, but it's usually as half of a duplex. So.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a little confused, as I often am.
Please make it.
Where is the second house proposed to go?
So this is the existing house that you see on the left-hand side, so straight down from where it says Lot 12.
Yes.
There's a faint line that just shows the existing house with the accessory building behind it. They're proposing to build a new single-family dwelling on the right-hand side here with a small, with a secondary building behind it.
So it's just
So this open space that you see on the side here, they're proposing to put a house in at the front with an accessory building at the back. So right now, they just have an extra wide lot. And you can see in the neighborhood, like just 2 doors down, you can see where the lot was similar to this lot in the past. And they built a duplex on it and put a party wall subdivision in there.
Don't you have a little pointer thing that dashes around?
I don't.
So right here, there's go put a house right here.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Just looks narrow.
So essentially, you're creating 2 lots and doing some infilling is what it amounts to.
It is. The which? Oh, do I have a laser then?
I think it's reversed.
See?
Can I
Look at
bring a
that.
motion for
Sorry,
it?
guys.
Success.
Wow.
North here.
Sorry.
New
There is
tricks.
distortion that takes place with the air photo. So the dimensions look like they are quite a bit less than they actually are. So if you look at the actual drawing, they're creating a proper lot. But there's a certain level of distortion that takes place with air photos, particularly with roofs. The roof gets distorted and stretches across the adjacent land. So although it looks quite narrow in the air photo, if you reference back to the survey plan, it shows that there is space for a single-family lot there.
So essentially, we're creating another lot and doing infilling is what it amounts to.
Correct.
Okay, Councillor Carlson?
I'll move that the zoning bylaw amendment 11707, bylaw 2017-017 be introduced and given first and second reading, and that a public hearing be held on June 26th, 2017 to receive public feedback on bylaw number 2017-17.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you. Any other discussion? I think we've got everybody satisfied. All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to 14.1.
So this is following from a closed session resolution from council directing staff to proceed with sale and, well, closing of a road and subsequent sale of a portion of lane behind 4800 Woods Avenue. So that sale has been negotiated successfully. And this is the introduction of the necessary bylaws to close that portion of lane.
Actually, just before we proceed, I've kind of neglected to mention, our CIO left a little earlier. She's had a lot of things going on with the flooding issues and so on, and is in heavy demand today, so she's started very early this morning and has been going on this and is still receiving phone calls and dealing with staff regarding the flooding issues, so she had to leave the meeting a little early. Councillor Carlson.
And the power went out in Trout Creek. I don't know if it's still out, but that was what I just saw. So.
There's always more.
Yeah,
Okay,
never
proceed. Sorry about
stops.
that. I
Yes.
just wanted to explain why our CIO had left.
Yeah, so this really is for council if you wish to proceed with the closure and removal of highway dedication behind 4800 Woods Avenue in order to facilitate a sale of that portion of lane and consolidation with that property.
Okay. Questions, Councillor Holmes?
No, I'll move it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The road closure and removal of highway dedication 4800 Woods Avenue bylaw number 2017-014 be introduced and read for a first and second time, and that road closure and removal of highway dedication 4800 Woods Avenue bylaw 2017-014 be read a third time.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Peak, thank you. Okay, any further discussion? I think it just moves forward. All in favor? Motion carries. None opposed. Thank you very much. Okay, moving ahead to councillor reports. And we're getting a little late, so I'll be too verbose. Councillor Trainer.
I'll be quick. I've spent the last week helping my parents pump water out of their crawl space in Trout Creek. I also went to the RDOS meeting on the proposed regional compost site, which was last Wednesday. And I wanted to mention that next week, from May 29th to June 2nd, is Bike to Work Week. And we will have our tent set up just in front of the library on the sidewalk there every morning from 7:30 to 9. So you're welcome to come by on a bike and make sure that you register. That's it.
I'll bring my scooter. Councillor Barkle.
I'll be quicker. Your turn, Tony.
Oh. Well, I don't have too much to say either. I attended with a number of the other councillors and our mayor the SILGA convention, end of April. The only thing that I wanted to mention that came out of that is I am now a director on the board of SILGA. So presumably that will serve Summerland well to have somebody on the board of our local government association. And then the last 3 weeks I have been studying, working on my Bachelor of Arts at Royal Roads University, so I haven't been here to attend anything.
All right. So with SOGA, that leaves us with 3 reps from our regional district.
Yes, it does.
How many board members are there? Do you remember?
I think there are 11.
Okay. So we've got a good representation
Yeah.
from this area on the
25%.
board. That's good. Councillor Carlson.
The only thing is that next Tuesday at 9 a.m. at Okanagan College is the Ag Innovation Open House session. Come and talk about what you envision as a need and a desire and what might work for an agricultural innovation center. We need to go there and tell them that Summerland's the best place for this to happen. So I intend to be there, and I'm going to take some folks with me. If you're going, make sure you register yesterday.
Councillor Holmes.
Just a few things. I attended the opening of a new exhibit at the Summerland Arts Center, and I also attended an exhibit at the Penticton Art Gallery on Friday of high school art from SD 67 students. Summerland students were very well represented at that show, and I encourage anyone next time you're in Penticton to stop in and take a look. It's quite an exhibit. I also want to give a congratulations to Grant Mansier. He's a grade 11 student at Summerland Secondary. He won a gold medal and the Senior Discovery Award at the Canada-wide Science Fair last week in Regina for his project, Why Do Aspens Tremble? Adaptations of Self-Cleaning and Pest Control. So he continues a long tradition of, I think, science students at at our school that continue to do well. I attended the R2S open house on solid waste management on last Wednesday as well, and then on Tuesday, the Chamber of Business to Business. And, of course, the wineries were there pouring, as they always do at many of our events. And I'd just like to say thanks to our wineries and to our cideries, and now our brewery as well. I just find it's amazing their generosity and how they support local events, and they're always there pouring. It's just great. I love going to these places. And 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I attended the Climate Action Advisory Committee meeting as the alternate for Councillor Carlson, and they updated on the progress of their 2017-18 work plan, and they also there was also a presentation on Bike to Work Week, which I've signed up for. So you'd be happy.
And I have as well.
Councillor Peak.
Thank you. Yeah, I've attended 2 meetings of the Trail of the Okanagan Committee, and there was a wonderful discussion of the Philosopher's Cafe. George Younging came. It was well attended and very in-depth discussion regarding reconciliation. It was quite a moving evening as well, and it was held at the new Cultural Centre. Went to the business after business, and that was held at Maple Rock. I'd like to say it was very nice. A large contingent from the Rotary came, so it was a real nice opportunity to have some good discussion. I also went to the regional compost site open house, and I want to commend the public at the questions and the quality of the questions and the discussion that ensued. It was a good evening as well.
Yeah, there was good participation in that, and I was actually, quite pleased at how everybody responded to and how the presentation was carried out. It's well done. Okay, anything else? Media, any questions from Susan or John? No, nothing? Okay. We now have an opportunity for the public to bring forward any comments, etc.
Thank you. My name is Barbara Robson. I live at 6708 McDonald Place. I see the revised and updated environmental assessment report for Banks Crescent isn't on the public website as of 6 p.m. tonight. I'm glad that all the councillors got it in their package. The question is, will the public get the report after Dean Strachan and Alison Peake meet next week? And will we get it before the next council meeting when you're going to be discussing it?
I think we could answer that.
Yeah,
the material that you received today will be on the website.
Yeah, the things that were printed out, the 2 documents that were amending that item are now on the website. They were published at about 6:30 p.m., so unfortunately it was very last second.
On the website?
They are online now, yes.
Thank you very much.
My name is Marianne McDonald. I live at 6505 McDonald Place. April the 10th, Mr. Strachan discussed the proposed development on 14 Kelly Avenue. And one of the components of that is he said that one of the provisions is that it should be in context with its neighborhood. So it was going to be a minimum of 2 stories to a maximum of 4 stories. And in this town, Doug Holmes also mentioned that, or he correctly identified that high-density developments are usually in areas that are busy areas, and not so much in residential areas. So the proposal for the Banks Crescent, I'm just questioning whether this is going to be a one-off, and because it's going to be isolated, there's only one way in and out. And third point I have is I'm a little confused with what Mr. Strachan has said about the OCP. I kind of get the impression that it is developer-driven and not community-driven, and that's why.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Green.
I'm Terry Green, 5709 Century Street, Summerland. I've been attending fairly regularly the council meetings for the last 4 or 5 months, and attending primarily because of the Banks Crescent development. And I have 3 sort of questions that I'd like to see if I can get an answer, if not tonight, at least for the next council meeting. in the time that I've been attending these meetings, we've had substantive reports from the planning department about the development and about accommodating the development, and indicating that there's been considerable district staff time put into this whole proposal. So three questions that I have is, first of all, how many person hours to date has district staff put in at taxpayer cost? Question number one. Question two, what is the dollar amount attached to those person hours? And number three is, because it seems that the planning department and district staff are going to be continuing to put time and resources and energy into this particular project, does this then put an undue pressure on council because of costs incurred and energies and resources used to in fact then accommodate the rezoning application in a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy kind of format?
Okay, I'll respond to that. Absolutely not. This, the process that planning has to go through and council and staff have to go through is what comes along when an application is made, and staff have to attend to that in a due diligence manner. So the time that's accumulated to deal with the issues around the particular application are commensurate with the demands that are made to it. So, turn that on.
Press the button.
That's already telling me I've had enough time. Can you shut that off? There we go.
They're wonderful when they listen.
Yeah, I know, it doesn't listen to me. At any rate, I would say that there is absolutely no bearing on the amount of staff time in terms of council's decision. We appreciate the amount of time that staff puts into things in order to bring us a maximum amount of thorough information and investigation to council. We expect staff to provide this kind of depth to our considerations. And any one of the applications that comes before us requires staff time and requires the due diligence of staff to examine everything and to bring all the necessary information to council. And if I was to try and estimate, I would think that probably each project draws the amount of staff time commensurate with the difficulties and complexities that it may have. So I wouldn't try and put, and there's absolutely no bearing, as I made clear a minute ago, on council's decision and deliberation is based strictly on the amount of the information we receive and the clarity to which we can apply ourselves to the information received by us.
Can we get an accounting of the number of person hours the district is devoted?
Dean may be able to answer that, because I know we do appropriate time to various projects in various departments. Dean?
Although I can't directly answer the question of how many hours I've potentially put towards it, there's a couple of pieces to that. The study work that's being undertaken is not being undertaken by district staff. It's being taken under consultants for the applicant. The time that we spend on it is in reviewing those reports, not preparing those reports. The second part of it is the fees and charges schedules are set up according to what's required under the Local Government Act, so that the fees collected are for those services being provided. So there's an application fee that's paid at the outset. Those application fees are reviewed periodically to ensure that the fees that are being paid for development services are reflected and tabulate out evenly. So it's not intended that the taxpayer is paying for the review of development. It's through the fees that are charged through applications for building permits, development variance permits, DPs, rezoning, subdivision. Those fees represent the average for development. So although some projects do require more attention because of the complexity of them, that doesn't mean that there was a loss there, because there are other applications. This evening's agenda, we had 5 other applications that came through the process, and maybe those are a little lesser in our time duration that we spend on them. So it balances out over time. When it gets out of line with the fees, we then visit to council to ask those fees to be adjusted so that development pays for itself.
Yeah, thank you for that clarity. That's excellent. Yes? Mrs. Wall.
Thank you, Madam Council. I have a couple of questions that I haven't yet mentioned. One is in regard to their slide presentation, or their slides that they have on the website anyway. In one area it says all off-site infrastructure will be paid for by the developer, but then 2 or 3 lines down it says only $1 million of off-site infrastructure upgrades to surrounding community will be paid for by the developer. So to me that doesn't make sense, and in particular when it comes to like road upgrades of Solly and Latimer, which we already know are going to probably cost a few million, I'm guessing. I'm not understanding what it is that they're saying, that on one hand they're going to pay for all off-site upgrades, and on the other hand they're only going to pay $1 million of
Well, perhaps Mr. Strachan can provide some clarity.
The applicant has indicated that they would pay for certain off-site works. That's a part of this process, is determining what off-site works are necessary for the development. There hasn't been a dollar figure attached to them, and those would be forming our recommendation to council to be completed prior to approval of them. We have not set a dollar value. They may have set a dollar value as far as their performance and what they're planning to do, but the district has not. It is based on what's necessary for the development. We then prepare a package that explains what's necessary. It's would then be costed out by an engineer and allocated, and council would have that information before they made the decision on the application. But at this point, there isn't a dollar figure that's been attached by the district. They've done their own performance, I'm sure. However, that has not been decided at this point.
My next part was in one of the slides they say that rock blend consulting will ensure the integrity of the red zone, the cliffs that are maintained. And I'm wondering how anyone can ensure that the integrity of the cliffs are maintained. I know that's one you can't answer right now, but I'm just putting it out there. In reference to the upgrades of page 8 of Lark's proposed sidewalks on Latimer to the McDonald Place right-of-way, they don't go all the way along Latimer to the Solly Road intersection. Does that mean that those elderly citizens on scooters that can't find the proposed stairs have to use the road from the right-of-way up to the Solly intersection? And Lark recently suggested in a letter that they might have to not build the stairs in order to provide or find the secondary water source. So then can we anticipate seeing not only all the citizens on the scooters, but also the pedestrian traffic going on the road between the McDonald Road right-of-way and Solly? So there's sort of nothing covering where anyone walks or moves on that area of the street.
Okay, I'll again ask Mr. Strachan to clarify that.
As noted in our update report, the design works have not been completed. At this point, what you've seen is the preliminary that was provided to the district for initial review. Council decided to request that they review their traffic studies. We've provided input on those traffic studies. Once the traffic studies are completed and accepted, the detailed design for works will take place. So we haven't reached that stage yet with them. That's the process that we're undertaking at this point in time. So the final design will come back to council and will be presented to council and to the community in advance of a public hearing if it proceeds to that.
Okay, thank you. Thirdly, whatever number I'm at.
We lose track.
This whole development is called aging in place, and I've struggled with the statement now for several months. The way I understand it is that 55 plus buy the luxury high-class condo, but then when you need to move into the assisted living, or heaven forbid, you might need to go straight into the long-term memory care, you would have to sell your condo first, and I'm assuming you can only move into the assisted living or the memory care if there's actually space available at the time you need it. So I'm sort of questioning the whole aging in place theory. You know, it's great in theory, but is it actually going to work?
Councillor Dean,
Just
yes.
very briefly, the aging in place is a design criteria that are utilized for residential units to ensure that you can stay in your unit even when you require a certain level of care. The campus of care, which is a different component for seniors housing, is more what you're referencing, where you have a unit and it may move into a different component of it. So they're two separate types of seniors housing. The aging in place is intended to design your unit so that if you have mobility issues and you need to be in a wheelchair, your doorways are adequately sized, your bathrooms have the handles, you have access to services in the area so that you can age in your house or age in your apartment. So it's two different types of housing components.
Okay, but then if you need your meals cooked, do you still stay in your apartment and you bring your meals to you?
It would depend on what level of service they provide within there. I don't know.
I think at this point, what I understand is that those will be services you can apply for, you know, just as you can now in other places, but, yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes? Linda?
I'm Linda Green, and I live at 5709 Century Street. It was interesting when Dean was talking about all the OCP policies and recommendations. How many of them this development does not coincide with?
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Okay, if that's it, then like a motion for adjournment, please. Councillor Carlson, Councillor Boot. Thank you. All in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you.